than usual today because we don't have sheets and it's a big holiday and I've been at doctors all day. So I'm going to go through my favorite plays starting on FanDuel because the slate locks at 6 Eastern. And then I will go over to DraftKings afterwards. You can pop in and ask questions. I'm probably going to be here for about 15, 20 minutes. So try to get to everything we can. We can stay later if we have more questions. So I'm happy to do that. But I hope you're all having a great MLK Day. It's actually a holiday that I support, and I'm glad. I hope most people have the day off. I did obviously schedule some doctor stuff today because I wanted to take advantage of what I thought would initially, like, for some reason I didn't forgot about the giant MLK slate basketball days, so I just didn't get to it. So sorry about that. But anyway, let's jump into the slate on FanDuel. I do think it's a very different slate with the Milwaukee Atlanta game there. Um, so let's talk through this. I am not not in the interest of really playing today. I'm sorry, I had to respond to one of the State Kings guys, but I'm going to jump over and talk through what I would be doing. So I would rank Milwaukee as probably the team. You want a ton of exposure here. It's a great matchup against Atlanta. I think that Giannis is my favorite on FanDuel, followed by Portis, then Middleton. I do think all three are in play, and I think you can make an argument for maybe DiVincenzo. I just don't find it as necessary. But that's just where I am with their side of it. On the Atlanta side, you actually have a bunch of guys who are borderline plays. Okongwu, I don't know where I stand on that. I probably wouldn't use him, but I'm okay with it. I just don't. That's not what I would be trying to do. DeAndre Hunter, I think, is viable. Um, but again, you can't expect Hunter to just go off every game. I really think that we've got to sort of temper some of our expectations. I mean, we saw, yeah, when he made, he made 3 out of 4 threes and 7 out of 10 of his shots, he put up 30 fantasy points. And he also had 3 blocks and a steal in that game. It's hard to rely on that stuff, but he certainly does have the upside to get there. I just don't think he's like an automatic like cash game play, and other people are sort of treating him as if he is. And he's a really good real life basketball player who can put up like 2 fantasy points in 25 minutes or 30 minutes. I mean, he really can have some duds of games, but he also does. I mean, he's going to be on the court enough, and if he does get hot, he's viable. But I think at his ownership, I don't think I'd be like overwhelmingly trying to play him. I think Trey is definitely in play. I actually think it's a good matchup for Trey. 9,600 is pretty fair. The turnovers bother me on FanDuel in general, but I still think that he's very viable. So he's probably my favorite of the Hawks, followed probably by DeAndre and then a Kongwu, but I don't think any of them are totally necessary. I think a Gallinari is viable as well, but I'm not going to be doing that. In the next game, Portland and Orlando, I don't think anybody's going to be particularly owned, and these are bad defenses. So I think that it's kind of interesting. I don't know what they're going to do with McCollum coming back, but I certainly think he's a viable tournament play, depending on whether or not Powell plays. Nurkic is also still viable, but I don't think it's especially exciting just because you do lose some of the usage. But I think they're viable, and I think that even a guy like the Sear Little is going to get the minutes to where he could be viable and sort of a more upside, similar-ish play that's a little bit more expensive than Hunter. On Orlando, I do love Cole Anthony. I'm going to keep riding this guy. He's not going to miss every shot every game. I still think Wagner is fairly priced, and I think Okiki is viable, but I'm not especially excited about any of that. I think that Anthony and Wagner are my 2 favorites. On the Toronto side of things, we don't know about Gary Trent yet. Scotty Barnes is still really cheap over there. I think he's very viable. Precious is back now. I don't think I would go there, but it's okay. It's not like the worst. I think Anunoby is a very good play. I think nobody's going to play any of these guys. I think they're all like one of them gets there big time is my guess, even though it's a tough matchup with Miami. I do like Jimmy Butler on the other side of this game at 9,100 on FanDuel. I think it's very, very reasonable. And I think Bam is probably out of play until we see him really get full minutes, and I think he will be back tonight. If he's not back, Butler is like almost a lock for me. In the Oklahoma City Dallas game, Giddey would be my favorite, followed by Shea. Not overwhelmingly in love with both of either, and I do think Lou Dort is viable, but I probably would lean Giddey or Shea over Dort. I know they're different price tiers, but that would be my first goat look. Dallas is pretty good defensively, so I'm not in love with anything from that, to be honest with you. I do think Luka is an excellent play. He's the guy I would spend up for in addition to Giannis, and you can do it on FanDuel. There's enough value, and there probably will be more by the time the slate actually locks. And then, of course, there's going to be the after lock shenanigans that always seem to happen. But I think Luka is the only guy I'm particularly interested in. I think Jalen Brunson is going to be fairly owned, and I would probably fade that at 6,500. I think that DFS, Finney Smith, is going to get the minutes, and at 4,500, he's shooting the ball more this year. I don't mind that, but it's not like my favorite thing to do. I think JaVale McGee in the next game is a staple that you're going to want to have in the majority of your builds. I do really like McGee, and I love Jalen Smith as a pivot on FanDuel. I think that no one's going to play him, and I think that there is upside. We've seen it for this guy before, and the minutes, he could see an increase in minutes if you get JaVale in foul trouble or something like that, or if he's just playing well. So I actually think those guys are both pretty interesting. Mikal Bridges is going to get some ownership. He's 4,500. I think he's fine. I would rank my Phoenix Suns interest: McGee, Booker on FanDuel, Paul, Bridges, Payne in that order. But I don't think that it's like again, we get the same thing with Mikal Bridges. It's like playing DeAndre Hunter, but you have probably a little more upside and you have more minutes. So I think I would lean Bridges over Hunter probably. Although I do want some exposure to that high total. So it's really tough between those two. I don't love either one, but can't have everything you want on the slate. The guy I prefer to play instead of those guys would be Keldon Johnson at 4,900. He, Podol, and Murray are all in play. I would probably put Murray ahead of Podol, Keldon Johnson ahead of both because of the price, and then no one else for me from San Antonio. Utah on FanDuel, you're going to want to play Donovan Mitchell. He's really cheap over there. I think he's a cash game must. I think this is a really good spot for Utah. I'm surprised they're only 4.5-point favorites, but I actually think the Lakers will play hard tonight. And I like Mitchell, then Gobert, then Ingles, then Bogdanovich. That's the way I would have them ranked. And I do think they're all interesting. And if Conley does play, I think he's viable in this particular matchup, but I wouldn't make him a staple. On the Lakers side of it, I like LeBron a ton, followed by Westbrook on FanDuel. I think Westbrook at 8,100 is definitely in play, even though he hasn't played well so far. This is not my favorite hasn't played well of late. It's not my favorite matchup for him, but at 8,100, I think you could justify it. But he will have some ownership as well. Malik Monk, depending on whether Carmelo plays or not, I think he's actually a good play either way. So I would go LeBron, then Dwight. LeBron, Monk, then Dwight on FanDuel, then Russ. That's where I have it ranked. And I'm going to look in and see if you guys have any questions for me in there. I got a what's up from Dunbar. What's up, buddy? Thoughts on Simons with CJ back on FanDuel? No interest at all. Let me clarify that. I don't see why we would be playing Simons at almost 8K. I really can't justify it. So if McCollum is back, so I would have a very hard time justifying that one. Even though, yeah, he can maybe get there, but he would have to play like out of his mind, I think, to get there with all the usage. I would rather play Nurkic at center. So no interest for me in Simons. It's if Powell is out, maybe I would change my tune a little bit. But as of right now, I don't see Simons as a good play at all. And it looks like that's pretty much it for the question. So guys, you're going to be you can rewatch this thing. I'll tell people in the chat because I'm not going to sit around unless we have any questions or back and forth because I hate hosting these things on my own. So pop on in if there are any questions, any thoughts, anybody else you want to talk about. On DK, the biggest differences for me are I think LeBron is even more of a staple because we don't have Giannis on this slate. So I think LeBron is part of your core. I think JaVale is part of your core, obviously, over here as well. Again, if you're not going to play JaVale, he's not going to project well, but Jalen Smith is completely viable, even with Biyombo in the mix now. I think Jalen Smith could play well enough, and it's not like they need to play super big against Podol and whatever else the Spurs want to throw at us tonight, which would probably just be Lawndale. Other guys for me on DraftKings that are a little different. I still really like Cole Anthony over here. I think he would be a staple for me. I think Westbrook is a very, very low owned option you could consider. And I think Mitchell is a really solid play, even at 9K, and will be significantly lower owned than he is on FanDuel. Again, Jimmy Butler is just way too cheap. I actually think he's getting too low ownership based on what I'm looking at right now. But assuming that even if Bam is back at 8,900, I really still like Jimmy here. In terms of spend ups, I would go LeBron, Luka, Jimmy as my favorite 3 spend ups. Again, I also do like Cole Anthony and Keldon Johnson on both sites, who are a little bit. Keldon Johnson more of a mid tier, and then for value on DraftKings, I think Precious is more viable over here than he is on FanDuel. I think Ingles is still viable, especially if Conley doesn't end up going. But I think even if Conley does, I still like Ingles. And then Trey Mann might seem like a little bit of a reach, but you can always possibly pivot if we do get some of that other news and find some of those other guys out. Dwight Howard is also another cheap one who I think is extremely viable against Gobert. They do tend to play him against bigs. They do, what did we see from him last time out? I believe he put up what he was against Denver. He had played 21 minutes, put up 19 fantasy points. This matchup actually a little better for centers, oddly enough. I know that sounds weird, but like Jokic has a way of taking these guys out of their anything. So I would bet on Howard to score more than 20 fantasy points tonight. Anyway, that's sort of my roundup. It's a pretty small slate. I'm not that interested in it. Would I play Jimmy over Luka? Those are completely different price tiers. I don't know how to say that. Those are not. I don't think in terms of that way. But I would rather play. I would rather if I was playing tonight, I would probably end up with more Luka than Jimmy. It's close between the two of them. I think either one is fine, but they are very different prices and different positions. So I don't think of those guys as similar thoughts. Favorite FanDuel center is going to be. Let me grab my notes here. My favorite center on FanDuel. Sorry, guys. Just give me 1 second. Is JaVale. I have no problem with JaVale being 4,900. It doesn't. You could also play Portis there. You could play Podol. I would go JaVale, Portis as my favorite too, but probably actually Portis, but you can use him at power forward. I do think Gobert is a really good play that no one seems to be on, so I don't mind that route either, or Dwight. But that's what I would be doing. I just went through my favorite centers on FanDuel, so hopefully the Prince's questions were before that, or were after he probably just didn't hear me yet because it's a little bit of a delay. Yeah, and so if you don't want to play Luka, play Jimmy. Yeah, if you don't, Sensei J, like I don't see what like you say you don't want to play Luka, so play Jimmy. But you asked me if I'd play Luka over Jimmy, so I'm confused. So if you already decided you don't want to play Luka, then your decision is made. All right, and I think that seems to be pretty much the questions are pretty much drying up. Guys, hope everybody does well today. Good luck to everyone out there. I'm sorry not to be playing more, and I'm sorry I didn't get my picks out. I'll be back at regular schedule tomorrow. And it's a small slate tomorrow, so nothing that exciting. I'm going to try to go with some friends to watch the Rams play tonight. It's a little crazy COVID-wise out here right now, so not as many options as usual. And good luck to my Rams. Hunter. I went through Hunter already. I think it's a mistake to think of him, to expect a lot from him, but I don't think it's a mistake to play him, if that makes sense. I think that everybody acts like Hunter is like, oh my God, you can't believe Hunter's at this price. And it's like, yeah, but he doesn't really put up fantasy points. But tonight is a good, especially good spot. I have Hunter, Bridges, and Keldon Johnson I prefer above both of those guys, but I do have Hunter and Bridges as the other two spend downs. I think Bogdanovich would be another one you could include. But Hunter's, it's okay. It's not like I wouldn't surprise me if he put up 15 fantasy points. It wouldn't surprise me if he put up 30. That's the way I treat him all the time. It is a particularly good matchup because of the pace, but it's also one he could get in foul trouble because they're probably going to match him up with Giannis. So my Rams takes are that I hope they win. I don't want to get in. I don't like betting against or on my teams in the playoffs. It's just not something I do unless I really have a strong belief in it. And I think this game is a very up in the air game. So my biggest takes for the Rams would probably be to try to find a way to get, I don't know, I guess it would be to try to, I literally haven't looked at tonight's thing because I don't want to play on when my teams are in the playoffs, like I said. Yeah, I guess it would probably, I mean, I think Jefferson will be the lowest owned of the receivers. You could use him. I do like Higbee. Against the Rams, I would be looking for, if Connor is in full go, I would be looking at Connor. That's probably what I would do. I don't have any like really hot takes. I do think I don't know what the ownership's going to be like on guys like Wesley, but I think he's interesting for Arizona, I would try to stay away from whoever we think, which will probably be Kirk, um, followed by Ramsey. But I think AJ Green will end up with some Kirk as well. So I would probably be looking for a guy like Wesley or Ertz as my main exposure to the Arizona side of things. Um, do I have to? You have to run back with a Laker if you're playing Utah. I don't know. Oh, so what? So specify what? How many? Who are you playing? No prop bets for tonight for me of any kind. I'm not. I'm staying away from it. There's too many. There's so much information and news that's probably going to come out that could end up adjusting things. And I'm just staying away from all of it tonight. I want to watch the Rams. I want to have a nice easy day. I already have had a little bit of an illness, so I've been at the doctor, and I'm just trying to take it easy. Um, do I have to run back with the Lakers? So I don't know how many Utah guys you're playing. That's a really hard question to answer without knowing that. So how many guys from Utah do you want to play? But you should be playing LeBron anyway. LeBron would be the. I mean, I mentioned the other guys, but LeBron is a fantastic play on both sites. I actually think LeBron is probably a better spend up than the other guys. I didn't include him for some reason when I said it before because I was looking at my different notes between DraftKings and FanDuel. And he's a little better of a play on DraftKings, but he's a completely viable and to play alongside Giannis, and he's going to be really popular and chalky. And I think I actually would have him play him ahead of Luka. So that's where I would stand on that one. If you do play Lakers, that would be my first guy. But I think you can play all the guys I mentioned. I mean, I went through the Lakers already. Mitchell and Gobert. So yeah, you can play any of the ones I already talked about. I like LeBron, Monk, then Westbrook on FanDuel and Dwight Howard. All of them. But I guess if you're playing Gobert, you can't play Dwight Howard. That's fine. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys all being here. Sorry, I'm not in like the better space for all this stuff. I just had a rough day. And I hope you all do really well tonight. I will be in Discord if things pop up, and I will answer if things are addressed towards me. And thanks for joining us a little bit early today. And we'll be back at our normal schedule and have everything for you tomorrow. Also, should be talking a little bit more about We're working on developing the with Evan, who was on our football show yesterday. We're working on developing the optimizer. It's still, you can do it, you can use it. It's just trying to update it and improve it, and we should have that stuff done in the next couple months. The site should be getting better and better. So we look forward to that, and we appreciate you guys as always. Thanks so much for Sheets, for Rody, for Evan, for Kenny, for everybody who was a part of True DFS. Good luck tonight, and we'll see you at the top of the leaderboard. So I want to see somebody win something. Good luck, everybody.